President Trump is offering well wishes to Americans in the new year. In a pre-recorded video message, the president praised his administration's response to the pandemic, despite a struggling economy and a slow rollout in getting people vaccinated. He had been at his club in Florida this week, but cut that trip short. It's happening as Republicans resist his calls for bigger stimulus checks. On Thursday, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell rejected a push for the Senate to take up a bill to increase payments from $600 to $2,000. It was the third day in a row he blocked those attempts. CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins me now. Weijia, it's so good to see you on this New Year's Day. Thanks for joining us.
Happy New Year, Jamie. I love seeing you, too. It's a rare treat.
It is. I know. We got to get better about Zooming each other. Drika Duncan and I were talking about that. But we'll put our personal stuff aside and talk about some political stuff now. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, as we were just talking about, he's tied a vote over increasing stimulus payments to two unrelated issues dealing with protections for tech companies and election fraud. It seems the strategy here is to have this measure fail.
Well, it is a strategic move because, he made very clear that he did not want a clean vote on this measure, which passed overwhelmingly in the House. And that means that senators would just vote yes or no on the increase in the stimulus payment. Instead, he baked it into another bill that includes what Democrats are calling poison pills, as you mentioned, things that have nothing to do with economic relief, directly at least, and that is repealing protections for internet companies and establishing a commission on voter fraud. And by doing that, it's sort of a win-win for McConnell because he's able to say, OK, sure, I'm going to put a vote on the floor about this just like you wanted. But on the other hand, it's pretty clear that it would never pass because Democrats simply would not go for it. For one, because they would have to admit that there was a problem with the current election system and that there needed to be a commission, which they're not going to do. And secondly, because of the internet issue, which has been such a hot topic that they've also been so staunchly against. And so that's why we are seeing him make this move, and he's able to give Republicans a sort of out, if you will.
Yeah, it seems like, especially when you look at the senators from Georgia who are in that tightly contested runoff race, that they would be able to vote for it and show their support for the president, knowing that the bill would fail. So there's some win-wins. It looks like for Republicans there all around. I do want to talk about, too, Republican Senator Josh Hawley, who says that he's planning to challenge President-elect Biden's election victory when Congress counts each state's electoral votes on January the 6th. This measure is not going to change the outcome of the election, of course, but it's a meaningful way for Republicans to also continue to show their support for the president. Is this, in your mind, a 2022 strategy or further down the line strategy?
Well, that's exactly what critics of Hawley are saying. They're saying that he just has ambitions to run for president, perhaps, in 2024, and he understands that President Trump has a lot of political power, and so he's trying to get on his good side should he ever need his support down the road, because behind the scenes, a lot of his fellow Republicans are furious that he's putting them in this position because only one senator had to sign on and agree that he would object to the certification of the outcome to force a vote for everybody. So now lawmakers have to debate and have to publicly say whether they will side with President Trump and reject the certification of the results or side with the American people and the popular vote. And so it puts them in an uncomfortable position that we will see play out next week. Of course, we believe, we do not know for certain, that's why, or one of the reasons why President Trump cut his Christmas vacation short to come back here to the White House to strategize with his advisors to get ready for that big day.
So you're hearing from other Republican lawmakers that they're angry on this. I was going to ask you about the response. Are you hearing anything else?
Well, yeah, they are frustrated, and we've heard mostly from Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse, who wrote a scathing and lengthy response on Facebook saying that any attempt to challenge the outcome of the election is just a dangerous ploy. And he also pointed to the fact that he believes President Trump has ulterior motives for continuing this fight because he's raised so much money, millions and millions of dollars, off of his claim that he wants to fight the election. Well, Well, he's lost in almost every court, and even his own Justice Department has said there's no evidence of widespread fraud, and yet he continues the fight because he is getting financial support to do that. Well, that money can be used later on for other campaigns, for perhaps another run, for his other political allies, and that's why Senator Sass is saying that, you know, he's doing this and that other Republicans are just being used as pawns in this bigger game to make money.
Interesting points. I do want to switch gears for a moment, talk about the coronavirus pandemic. On Thursday, President Trump touted Operation Warp Speed despite the slow rollout of the vaccines. The administration pledged to vaccinate 20 million people by the end of 2020, but only 2.6 million people have actually been vaccinated by year's end. What has the administration said about the delay? It seems that the strategy here may be to blame states, but what are you hearing?
Well, that is one of the things they're pointing to, because from the very beginning, even though they talked a lot about the details about manufacturing and distributing the vaccine, one question always remained: exactly what are you going to do to help the states come up with their own plans to do that? And there is a playbook that's supposed to serve as sort of a blueprint, but states have long complained that they need more money, that they need more help. And, you know, administration officials have said, look, it is state managed and federally supported. So we are here for them, but ultimately it is up to the governors and the states to do that. And that's what President Trump is saying, that the governors need to do more to get this vaccine into arms. Operation Warp Speed officials point to that, along with the fact that, you know, this came out when the weather was tough in some parts of the country and we were in the holidays. And so maybe people just didn't have a chance yet to get their vaccinations. But states are saying it's just chaotic and that there's not a real uniform way for them to help their hospitals and other medical facilities to administer this vaccine. They're all just trying to figure it out in real time. Of course, the whole point of Warp Speed was to be ready when the vaccine was approved so they wouldn't have to do all this work now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do have to ask you, with President-elect Joe Biden being sworn in later this month, what more do we know about how his administration will potentially handle the widespread vaccine rollout?
So President-elect Biden just talked about this week. He had a lot of harsh words for the Trump administration and said that this rollout is a total failure, essentially. And he says he wants to establish vaccine sites and offer mobile sites for people, just as one obvious way to help get that vaccine distributed across the country. But he's also focusing on other measures. For example, he's really pushing people to wear masks during the first 100 days of his presidency and to take other measures that the president has sort of been very hesitant to embrace in order to try to control the virus, because it continues to spin out of control, as you know from your own reporting, every single day.
Yes, and I'm returning home to Southern California tomorrow, and it's not a pretty picture out there. Weijia Jiang, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie.